images that rush to mind when we hear the word British Columbia. Rugged mountains colored yellow and white by meadows of wildflowers against snow-capped peaks. Salmon struggling against wild rivers tumbling towards the sea. Great silent forests that go on forever. Rolling hills and valleys of waving grass. Mirrored lakes. The Thompson River flows through and links together all of these landscapes on its way to join the Fraser, then on to the sea. Travelers along the Trans-Canada or the Coquihalla Highway or the Yellowhead all will meet and journey, at least for a while, beside the Thompson River. And along all of these routes are provincial parks that preserve these landscapes for the pleasure of visitors to Thompson River country. Kamloops is the hub of the wheel, whose spokes are the North and South Thompson Rivers and the Nicola Valley. At Kamloops, the South and North Thompson join to become simply the Thompson River. Surrounding the city are the forested plateaus and highlands of the southern interior. Paul Lake Provincial Park is a brief 30-minute drive northeast of the city up through the grasslands and aspen trees. Paul Lake is a jewel set in the Thompson River Plateau. For a spectacular view of Paul Lake and the Plateau country, try the walk to the top of Gibraltar Rock. From this promontory you may see osprey feeding on the lake below, or the many fishermen, boaters, and sun worshippers who find Paul Lake the perfect escape from the noise, bustle, and heat of the city. Paul Lake is a stopping point as we ascend the plateau. To the south of Kamloops is an opportunity to explore the top of Plateau country at Lac Lejeune. This park is best known for its fishing. In fact, its original name was Fish Lake. Trips to Lac Lejeune should not be restricted to the warmer months, for the Lac Lejeune area also has some of the finest cross-country skiing in BC. Near the park are many kilometers of groomed ski trails and facilities oriented to families who wish to explore the spruce and pine forests. The Coquihalla Highway forms the southern spoke of Thompson River country. Past Lac Lejeune, the highway descends from the plateau into the hot valleys and grasslands and beautiful Monk Provincial Park. Situated in the Nicola Valley just north of Merritt, Monk Park is in the heart of cowboy country. In fact, the largest ranch in Canada is right in this valley, the Douglas Lake Ranch, nearly 1 million acres of leased and deeded land. Ranching has been a part of this valley for over 100 years. A glance at the historic town of Nicola will prove this point. For instance, the Murray Church, built in 1876, is the oldest church in the interior. The nearby Quashena Hotel, just north of Nicola, was erected in 1908 in anticipation of a railroad line that was never built. This area has had human presence long before Europeans were here. In the lawns at Monk Provincial Park are the remains of the winter dwellings built by the Thompson River Indians. Known as kickwillies or kakuli pits, these ground depressions, when covered over with logs and dirt, provided excellent protection against the winter cold. Further down the shore of Nicola Lake are pictographs, likely illustrating spirits or dreams of young men. Even Nicola Lake and Nicola Valley bear the name of a great 19th century Indian chief. The Indians and the ranchers are still an intricate part of the Nicola Valley today. Monk Provincial Park preserves a mosaic of natural and human history, combined with excellent opportunities for outdoor recreation. Across Nicola Lake are the grasslands of the Quashena and Douglas Lake ranches. The lake itself provides quality fishing and swimming, while the campsites blend in with the dry ponderosa pine forest, with nature trails weaving through forest and grassland. Yet another landscape lies a brief 1-hour drive to the east of Kamloops, the wide open water of Shuswap Lake. Here are the finest boating waters in all of BC, perhaps in all of Canada, with warm water, sheltered bays, and good fishing. In fact, this area is so well known for boating that BC Parks has established a series of parks just for those traveling by water. These marine parks provide overnight anchorages and mooring areas with facilities of the high standards we associate with BC Parks. From these parks, you can enjoy the rolling green mountains that form part of the Shuswap Highlands. At the east end of Shuswap Lake, the highlands give way to the rugged Monashee Mountains, a range of the mighty Columbias. These mountains force the clouds to drop their loads of moisture, creating a dense vegetation of red cedar and hemlock. The only island in Shuswap Lake illustrates the transitional nature of the Shuswap climate and vegetation. Copper Island's west side is open, dry forest of ponderosa pine and Douglas fir, while the east side is wetter and damper with cedar trees and ferns. A well-maintained trail follows the perimeter of the island and affords some spectacular views of the lake. Copper Island is part of one of the most popular parks in the province, Shuswap Lake Provincial Park. Shuswap's campground draws great numbers of visitors to its beach, trails, and nature house. The rivers that flow into the Shuswap are witness to one of the greatest wildlife spectacles in the world. For it is to these rivers that thousands of salmon return every fall. The most famous of these salmon runs is the Adams River Sockeye Run, the largest salmon run in the world. During the dramatic dominant run that occurs every 4 years, as many as 2 million fish will fight their way inland from the sea to spawn and die along this beautiful river. BC Parks protects the land surrounding the Adams River. The Roderick Haig Brown Conservation Area has a system of trails running from the mouth of the river 14 kilometers upstream to Adams Lake. Here you have excellent chances to view this wildlife spectacle. The Adams River should be explored in other seasons as well. Walks in the springtime will reveal a wide variety of flowers. Keep an eye out for the Indian pictographs in the Adams River Canyon. An interesting side trip is along the Bear Creek Flume Trail. The north spoke of the wheel follows the North Thompson River and the Yellowhead Highway out of the plateau, through the highlands, and finally into the Caribou Mountains. About an hour and a half's drive north of Kamloops is the first glimpse of Trophy Mountain, the southern sentinel of Wells Gray, our almost perfect park. Wells Gray has many claims to fame. This giant park of over 500,000 hectares protects an entire watershed. Every drop of water that flows out of Wells Gray originally fell in the park. Wells Gray is sometimes called the Waterfall Park, for it has some of the most spectacular of these in Canada, including famous Helmcken Falls. A short journey in from the Yellowhead Highway is the Green Mountain Viewing Tower, the best place to see and begin to understand the magnificent splendor that is Wells Gray. To the south looms Trophy Mountain, with its world-famous wildflower meadows. To the west is Mahood Lake, one of the 5 large lakes within the park boundaries. In the distance to the north are the snow-covered peaks of Azure, Garnet, and Huntley Mountains, the southern vanguard of the rugged Caribou Mountains that dominate the northern half of the park. In between are the vast forests and an oddly cylindrical mountain. Pyramid Mountain, in the left foreground, is a volcano that erupted under the glacier about 10,000 years ago. Wells Gray is home for many volcanoes. It is the vast lava flows from these eruptions that cover the southern half of the park, creating the wild rivers and waterfalls. Wells Gray is most of all a true wilderness park. Here live animals that have never seen man, creatures that cannot live with man nearby. Bears, both grizzly and black, cougars, wolves, deer, wolverines, and one of the largest herds of mountain caribou in BC, all call Wells Gray home. Wells Gray is also for people who love the wild places. There are campgrounds, boat launches, nature trails, and amongst the many excellent boating and fishing waters, Giant Myrtle Lake, a lake reserved for non-motorized boats. We have referred to the Thompson River as spokes on a wheel, with Kamloops at its hub. It might have been better to call it a compass, for we have only looked at a few cardinal points and left out the many points in between. Wells Gray, Shuswap, Monk, Paul Lake, and Lac Lejeune are only 5 of the more than 30 parks that dot Thompson River country. And the abundance of parks is a reminder that a park is not a park without people. What do people do in these parks? Just about everything. Few people think of BC without thinking of fast-flowing rivers. Along the Thompson River itself is some of the best whitewater in the province. For an intimate look at this whitewater, you may want to try a rafting tour with a trained guide. Whitewater rafting is an attraction from Ski Hist Provincial Park, the Roderick Haig Brown Conservation Area, and in the Wells Gray Recreation Area. While there is good fishing in all of our parks, some of the favorites are Lac Lejeune, beautiful Kentucky Eileen Recreation Area, Big Bar Lake Provincial Park, Shuswap Lake, and the cold, clear waters of Wells Gray. In the late fall, you may want to try the world-famous steelhead fishing along the Thompson from Gold Pan Provincial Park. Boating is another feature of all of our parks, whether it be canoeing on Clearwater Lake, windsurfing on Lac Lejeune, water skiing on Nicola Lake, or just drifting on the Shuswap. Many visitors just love to picnic and enjoy the balmy summer days, another reason for our parks. Others love to explore, and there are hundreds of kilometers of trails through our parks to encourage discovery of nature, of history, and of self. For a special experience, join one of our visitor programs, which take place in many of our parks during the summer months. Naturalists are there to help you understand and enjoy our natural and cultural history and our park's many recreational opportunities. Join a visitor program to find out about that bird you saw, to learn where the good fishing spots are, to understand the miracles of nature, to find out about eccentric John Ray, whose homestead still survives in Wells Gray, about the rough and ready Caribou Wagon Road that led prospectors to the Caribou Goldfields, about early settlers and outlaws, about our native people, the interior Salish, about bears, billies, and balsam root. A naturalist, or your own curiosity, can take you up a mountain, beside a waterfall, along a river, around a nature trail, to a beach, or inside a Kakuli pit house. Thompson River Country is a unique mosaic of landscapes encompassing all of the major natural features of BC. The dry valleys and rolling grasslands of the Nicola, the sagebrush and swirling waters of the Thompson River, the mirrored lakes of Plateau Country, the magic of the Shuswap, the rugged mountains, tumbling waterfalls, and endless forests of Wells Gray, each preserved in a provincial park that awaits your visit as you explore Thompson River Country.